Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay. So we had the imagine. I just hit record. Sorry, I missed recording. Okay. So the reason, so we have, we'll talk more about Einstein a little bit later. The reason why I'm showing this particular picture here in Parshas Beshalach is because a number of years ago, where the life, actually it was not real, it was around where Lifetown was, the same people, the Rav Zalman Grossbaum, and a whole bunch of people put together this Pesach Exodus experience. Did anybody attend that? It was fantastic. It was such a great thing. So they took a warehouse and they turned it into this Pesach experience. And if you see, like in the picture here, they had all the kids come and they baked matzahs, but they acted out the Pesach story. So that would be, you know, kind of a little bit hokey. I thought the whole thing was going to be hokey, but it wasn't. They actually did such a good job. I mean, even you could see by the artwork how much work they put into this thing. I wish there was more videos and pictures of it. I don't see any, but I couldn't find any online to show you. But there was one thing which was just fantastic, really, really good. And what it was is they after the Makos and everything, so they started chasing the kids. So they start coming and chasing the kids, and you start running into another room, and the room is like a seashore. So there was sand all over the place, right? And there was a path kind of, and you went into the path, and there was this massive screen, like that took up the whole wall, this massive screen. And the screen showed the sea, right? And you run right up to the screen, and then you just see the sea, and there's like nowhere to go. And it was the first time that I actually like felt what Bnei Yisrael had. Like there's this massive sea here, and where are you going? And they're coming and they're screaming in back of you. So that, you know, they're like running and screaming back at you, and you're running and you're like, there's nowhere to go. Like, what do you do? Like, you're completely stuck. And then all of a sudden, at the last minute, the screen opens up, you know, like it opens up, and you can go through. And it was so powerful. I don't know how exactly they did with the screen open here, but it was so powerful. The image, when I came up to that screen and thought about it, and go, oh my gosh, there really was, Bnei Yisrael really had nowhere to go at that moment. So, they were able to really, by using their imagination, they were able to bring to life this amazing story. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how we could use our imagination towards happiness and bettering our lives. So I'll start with, I'm not going to watch this whole thing, but we'll start a little bit with a video from Steve Harvey.
Let me tell you something before you go. Whenever people come see me live, I try to say something meaningful to people. And I'm in the laugh business. That's my gift. That's what God gave me at birth. Your gift is the thing that you do the absolute best with the least amount of effort. I want to tell you something that can help enrich your life. It's a sure sign from God that he ain't through with you, because he wakes you up in the morning. When he's done, you won't wake up no more. But as long as you're waking up, that means he has something for you that he hasn't been able to give to you for whatever the reason. I'm going to help you get to that reason a little bit quicker. I want to tell you something that I learned that changed my life. I was reading a book one time that had a quote in there from Albert Einstein. And Albert Einstein said, imagination is everything. It's the preview to life's coming attractions. If you think about that, that's a really, really true statement. Because everything you see in this world came from somebody's imagination. Everything. Somebody was talking on the phone one day, on that wall phone, connected to the cord, and tried to walk, and it didn't go no further. And he wanted to just go outside and get something out the car. Somebody said, you know what? I wish I could take this phone outside. Everybody in here got a cell phone. It was in somebody's imagination. Somebody imagined that. Somebody imagined everything. Somebody got tired of walking. Somebody got tired of driving cars. Somebody said, we're gonna fly. You're not finna fly. Everybody in here done been on the plane. See, your imagination is the evidence of things not seen. You know why they call it the evidence of things not seen? Your imagination, you the only one can see it. You the only one can see it. See, so all this stuff you've been imagining was not some hocus pocus. When you imagine stuff, it's actually God showing you a preview of a coming attraction he has for you. That's what your imagination is. Why do you keep imagining yourself with a second home? Because God wants you to have a second home. Why do you keep imagining yourself in a supervisory capacity on another job? Because God really wants you to have that. Why you keep dreaming of opening a business one day? That's because that's what God really got for you. And he put it in your imagination. The problem with your imagination, though, is you tell it to the wrong people. If you want to kill a big dream, tell it to a small-minded person. You can't, oh man. Think about this in your life. How many times have you had this really incredible idea and you took it to your family and your friends? You shared it with them and they shot it down. You know why they shot it down? Because they couldn't see it. Because God didn't put it in their imagination. He put it in yours. It was your evidence of things not seen. See, all this stuff you've been imagining, you ought to start working on it. Because that's what God really got for you. Your real life is in your imagination. I'm here to tell you that. You think I'm here by accident? I'm here because he put this in my imagination when I was 10. When I was 10, he showed me I was going to be on TV. That's all I ever wanted. The assignment when I was in the 6th grade was everybody write their name on a piece of paper and write what you want to be. You know what I wrote on my paper? I want to be on TV. Now, the problem I had, though, was I used to suffer with a serious stuttering problem. I couldn't talk outside my house. I stuttered for years. I flunked out of school. I'm on my 3rd marriage. I lost everything I ever owned twice. I've been homeless and lived in a car for 3 years. But at 10, though, I wrote on a piece of paper, I want to be on TV. So the teacher went around the room and read everybody's paper. She had you stand up when she called your name. And the only assignment was your name and what you want to be. Doctor, lawyer, dentist, basketball player, football player. I wrote I want to be on TV. She saved me for last. She said, little Stevie, come to the front. Now I'm thinking, I'm going to the front because I got the best answer. Because ain't nobody had put that on their paper. She called me to the front. I'm thinking I'm finna give me a gold star. But I was wrong about that. She called me to the front to humiliate me. First of all, you know I can't talk. I suffered with stuttering stammer so bad, man. I couldn't talk at all. And that lady lit in on me. Why did you write this on your paper? Now I'm standing there, I can't talk. Who in this school ever been on TV? Who in your family ever been on TV? Who in this neighborhood ever been on TV? I'm crushing, man. I'm standing there dying. She said, look at you standing there. You can't even talk. How they gonna put somebody like you on TV? So every Christmas, I send her a flat screen TV. Because I don't want her to miss me. I do not want her to miss, not.
So you see, it's a good story. I think it's a good story. So you see that he had a dream, and he followed through the dream. And this is like the thing we're taught a lot and discussed a lot in America about dreams come true. But I think his idea is right, that God puts these ideas in your head, and that's a possibility of something that exists. Like Einstein said, it's something that could exist in the world, and it's for us to bring that to life. There's a beautiful story. I'm not going to show this video just for time, but I put it in the thing for you to watch. There's this person named Amy Mullins. I don't know if you ever heard of Amy Mullins. Amy Mullins was a W amputee when she was a baby. She has no legs. She says it's not fair having 12 pairs of legs. She had a number of TED Talks. The first TED Talk shot her to fame. The TED Talk, what she had was she saw one of her coaches, one of her people when she went to college, one of her the coaches in the team recommended that she was a very fit type of person, that she should get running legs and try out for the Olympics. And she won all types of rewards and so on, and medals. And then she decided, so she gave this TED Talk, and she became very famous from this TED Talk. And she got onto a lot of things that she never dreamed that she would have. But she got in, she became a model, she became an actress, she was an athlete. She's a very, very, very impressive person. But what's interesting here is that she, in her TED Talk, what she talks about, she dreamed up these legs. So she said that when she was she dreamed that she could have all these different types of legs. She realized that what is to other people's advantage could really be to their disadvantage. She could use the fact that she has these fake legs. Who says that her legs have to be, regular legs? She could be any size that she wants. So whatever the shoot was, that's what the type of legs she would make. She would create legs for the the movie or for the shoot or whatever it was that was needed. She'd create legs. So she had, if she had to be 5 feet, she'd be 5 feet. If she had to be 6 feet, she'd be 6 feet. If she needed special legs like a donkey or something like that, whatever, then those are the type of these type boot legs. She just create them, and she walks like normal. You can't even tell that she's it. But she dreamed this idea, and she dreamed this idea, and she brought it into fruition. And she spends a lot of time in her talk talking about how to make people comfortable with her disability. So she says how she takes the kids in, and before, she doesn't let any adults when she speaks to kids, and she lets them play with the legs and so on. And then the kids start dreaming of all these things that they could do if they had the legs like she does. So she had this idea, and she was able to kind of bring this idea to fruition. No, we're not gonna watch it. If you will it, it's no dream. And if you do not will it, a dream it is, and a dream it will stay. Theodore Herzl. So how do we get this? So everybody has dreams, but how do you grow your imagination? How do you get your imagination? What does it take to do to make an imagination and ideas in your imagination flourish? How does it work exactly? So I saw this really beautiful idea from Rav Soloveitchik. I spoke about it at Shalosh. It's such a beautiful idea. It tells when you hear this, and I heard Rav Lichtenstein talk about this when I was in Grus, and the first time I heard him, when he was talking about the Ramban, and he talked about how the Ramban's imagination made the Ramban. But the way the Rav Soloveitchik says, Rav Soloveitchik shows you why he is great, what made him great. So you have the type of, and this is what I was saying in Shalosh, you have the type of people who learn a lot of material. They get a lot of material. But there's others who are able to see outside the box, able to see stuff that nobody else could see. And Rav Soloveitchik was able to do that. He was able to see ideas that nobody else sees. It wasn't just like, the regular chidushim, knowing a lot of sources, knowing what a lot of other people said. He was able to do it so much differently. And the question is how? How was he able to do that? How did he become so great? So he writes, he tells you here is it's in the Rav's Chumash. In these 2 paragraphs, he explains exactly what happens to him. He says, no one is worthy of time awareness in retrospection. It is alien to him if he is incapable of reliving, recovering, and reproducing past experiences. Memory is not just the storehouse for latent impressions. There's also a living memory, which reproduces and re-experiences the past. Past events which are not re-experienced belong not to history, but to archaeology. In other words, the difference between archaeology and history, he's going to say, is history, we relive history in our minds, in our practices. History becomes real. Archaeology is just facts that you find, facts that you find in the ground. Indeed, the mitzvah of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim does not exhaust itself in a historical review of bygone events that have vanished completely. It's more than that. It's a drama charged with emotion and tenseness of anticipation in the past. Now, here it is. He says, Rabbi Akiva is not just a figure who lived so many hundreds of years ago. He is part of my life, and his image and teachings are integrated into my personality. When I think of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Yoshua, Maimonides, I am not thinking of people who lived in antiquity or in Middle Ages. Their images have become part and parcel of me, of my eye awareness. And the Rav goes on to say this. As a child in Cheder, I studied the Parsha of Lech Lecha towards the beginning of the school year during the raw Polish autumn. As I trudged through the muddy streets to school, I imagined how Avram traveled to Canaan under similar circumstances. As a boy, I lived with the drama of the Akedah and the tragedy of Sarah's death. My heart would pound in fear that perhaps Esav would return early from the hunt before Isaac completed his blessings and Jacob would be caught red-handed. Today, we experience what is popularly referred to as the generation gap. Children can find no meaning in their parents' experiences. They have difficulty identifying with people and events that took place only 20 years earlier. Yet the ability to transport into the past, to span generations, is a sublime idea behind Ksav v'ha-Mechtav. Through Ksav v'ha-Mechtav, one can relive events that happened even thousands of years ago. What I saw from this is the Rav saying such a deep idea. What he's saying is that what made him great and what makes people great is that he was able to become Avraham. It's not that he just studied Avraham. He became Avraham. He became, when he studied somebody, he internalized it. He imagined, what is it to be Avraham? What is it to be Rabbi Akiva? So when he studied Rabbi Akiva, he understood Rabbi Akiva because he became like Rabbi Akiva. He tried through his imagination to become the individual. Like with the Rambam, he became, so let's say he's studying the Rambam, right? So with the Rambam, he starts to become the Rambam. He starts thinking like the Rambam. How does the Rambam think? That's the way he thinks. So when the Rambam says something different, like when he comes across a Rambam that's different, so then he says, wait a second, I can't say that because I said something different somewhere else. How do you do that? Do you just remember his facts about the Rambam here and there? No, it's because he internalized the Rambam. So he thinks about, like, how would the Rambam, by me being the Rambam, so how would I deal with this issue? I can't deal with this issue because it's against what I believe in. You know what I mean? It's against me. So he becomes, when he studies somebody, he doesn't separate himself from it. He imagines that he becomes that individual. And it's such a powerful way of studying and becoming. You could do it for anything. You become your work. You become the work. And by becoming the work, you're able to not only internalize it, but you're able to manipulate it in different ways, just because you could truly understand what it means. It's a very powerful thing. And that's what Rav Lichtenstein told us about the Ramban is that some people answered the questions. The Ramban had this great imagination where he imagined the scenarios. He imagined it in his head. What happens in those situations? He put himself in the situation. And by doing that, he was able to come up with really incredible insights that Rashi doesn't. Rashi uses kind of like all these sources and he puts it all together. The Ramban tried to use his imagination to answer great questions. It's such a beautiful thing, and I think it shows the difference between somebody who's great and somebody who's just outstanding. They become the Rambam. It's an amazing idea. I think we see this in a number of things. In Torah. Whoops, sorry. So the Rashi tells us about the man. What happened with the man? The man, so you know that the man, you tell all the kids that the man, when it came, it would it would be to your desire, whatever you dreamed about. That's what it was, right? That's what the man was. Whatever somebody dreamed about, that's the man. What happened is that we, in a way, the people, and you saw this in the Holocaust. It seemed to be like it was like this game people played in the Holocaust, where they would dream about what type food this was. So they had the potato, and they dream like this is this, it tastes like this and tastes like that. So we could say, okay, there's a miracle and it happened, and that's what happened. But you could also, it could also become it in a way, if you dream it and think about it. So in some ways, you could become what you dream about. It could come to life. There's a great story uh, about Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps, if you know, he is the most decorated Olympian ever. And if you look at this very quick video, you don't even need to hear the background. Watch his glasses. Watch what happens. You see the water pouring out of his glasses? Did you see that? When he took off his glasses, the water all poured out. So there's a story the day Michael Phelps went blind. What happened is that Michael Phelps, when he won his 10th gold medal, he realized his glasses filled up with water. His glasses completely filled up. He was blind. He could not see anything. So, yeah, and yet he broke in that race. He not only did he win, but he broke the world record. How did he do it? So he said in the article, I put the article here in the interview, he said that he imagined when he was practicing, he's tried to imagine all the things that could go wrong. So he pretended that these things actually did go wrong. And one day, this was one of the things that he dreamed that was going to happen to him, that he was going to one day go blind, that he was going to do it blind. So he decided that in order to make sure that if he ever happened to him that he would do this, he could do it blindly. He's going to count his strokes and know exactly how many strokes there is before he has to turn, and how many strokes before he hits the end, right? For the whole thing. So he did this. He kept going on, and he practiced it many times. And then when it happened to him, he was ready for it because he used his imagination. And therefore, when it did come to reality, he was ready. He was ready to do it. And this is really what makes great athletes great. In this TED Talk, again, we're not going to watch too much of it. Oh.
Friend of mine, Mr. Wilson. No, not Russell Wilson from the Seahawks. He plays kind of with this oblong ball, and it doesn't bounce very well. But Mr. Wilson and I have been friends for a long time. We go way back. And he's been by I first met him when I was at Christmas time. I was about 4 years old, and there was this big box in front of the Christmas tree, and I just dove in and opened it up, and there was this big orange ball. And he's been by my side ever since. When I walked down the street or went to school, I always had Mr. Wilson with me. And then I went on to college and obviously played college basketball. Then I went on to play professional basketball. And he's been actually a part of my life in my business career. So we've been on this journey for a long time. And it's been an interesting journey. And one of the things that we've been able to do is meet some amazing people. Those amazing people are elite athletes, not just your regular athletes, but your elite athletes. Now, a lot of you are going to say, I can't relate to these people. They're superhuman, these men and women. I'll give you a little secret. They're just like you and me. I actually had a front row seat. Okay, I was at the end of the bench watching and observing and learning from these world-class, amazing kind of athletes. What I want to give you today is a window into that world that a lot of us don't have an opportunity to. And a lot of us think that these amazing athletes are there because of their talent. But Mr. Wilson and I realized it's really not. It's about a competitive mindset. They actually see and think and behave so much different than we do. And that's what I want to share with you, some two key points that we saw that maybe you could use in your daily life or in your business. The 2 points are visualization and deliberate practice. Let's start with visualization. A lot of us think that visualization is about seeing a goal ahead of us. But actually, these people travel in time. They actually take their emotions, their senses, seeing, hearing, touching, and they go into the future. What they're doing is defining their own reality, their own future, and they're living there. And then they come back, and then they have already created an imprint, a blueprint of what success is going to be for them. Let me give you an example. I used to be a really good shooter, and I used to shoot a lot of free throws. Before I shot a free throw, I would actually, and you can take the time if you want to follow with me, is close your eyes, and I would think about how I was holding the ball. I would think about the arc of the ball. I would think of a really good backspin, and it goes right through the net. And what's really cool to me, if I can make the net flip up onto the rim. Then all I would do was open my eyes, take a couple dribbles, and I would just let it go. 9 out of 10 times, I would make it 90% of the time. What I didn't realize at that time was with neuroscience today, when you actually visualize what I was doing, you're actually using the same part of the brain as if you were doing it. It is so powerful today, even Jordan Spieth, the #1 golfer in the world, you've probably heard now with technology, their communication with him. Michael Geller would say to Jordan Spieth, paint a picture. Well, what he's saying is, look at the flight of the ball, watch it hit the green, watch it roll onto the green. How is it gonna react? Jordan will say, got it. And he says, make it happen. And so he does.
Oops, sorry. So here we see that the elite athletes, what they do is that they make this visualization and then they execute it. And then they execute it. And so I'm going to, in a second, we're going to go in and I'm going to show you exactly how they execute it. You'll see exactly how they execute it. But the idea here is, and this could be used for anything in our life, is to try to see if we have like any idea that we have in our life, how would that idea play out, right? And get your mind already thinking about the idea. So even when you're walking down the street and you're doing other things, so your mind is already thinking about that idea. If we go back to Steve Harvey, so he was trying to figure out how could he get onto TV, right? He's going to have it, and he's going to push and push and push and push. He'll live in cars. He'll be homeless. He'll keep going on interviews and interviews and interviews and interviews, right? He's going to try to make his dream come true. So one thing is that he would do is he's going to either brute force try to push his dream to come true until somebody believes in him. That's one way of doing it. Another thing that we see a lot of people do, not that they're not brute forcing it, they come up with an idea, they let the idea simmer, they visualize how the idea could manifest itself, how they could make this idea work, and they work through it till the idea could come till the situation's right where they could let the idea come to life. If it's something that they had to do with practice here, so he's visualizing how the process should go, and then you come in and you execute the idea. It's very important for us to use God gave us our imagination, to use our imagination to come up with ideas on bettering our life, but also to take things that we do regularly and try to make them better. How do we do that? By visualizing how they can work. The problem is that a lot of times we get in our head issues, we get things that it stops us. Usually our head is what stops us from being able to do this. We get so many things in the head, we beat ourselves down. It's hard for us to, we may have a great idea, but then we come up with all the reasons why it doesn't work. And we have all, it's hard for us to execute these ideas. There's something, I didn't put it in here, that there's a whole thing called the yips. Not sure if you ever heard of the yips, but the yips are when a sports player can't do something basic. They can't throw the ball. Like you had this guy named Steve Sachs, and he was a second baseman, and he couldn't throw the. All of a sudden, he stopped being able to throw the ball to first. Right, Chuck Knobloch on the Yankees, another one. He couldn't. All of a sudden, he just couldn't throw the ball to first. He did it a million times in his life, but he just couldn't do it anymore. Or there was a Mackie Sasser from the Mets. He was a catcher, and all of a sudden, he couldn't throw the ball to the pitcher. He's a catcher, a major league catcher. This is all he does is throw the ball back to the pitcher. And then one day, he couldn't do it. And his career ended because he just couldn't throw the ball back to the pitcher. He would just go like this and like this and like this and like this, and then finally he'd let it go. But the people would steal bases and it would throw off the pitcher's timing and made everybody crazy. He couldn't do it. It got into his head and it ruined it for him. And it happens to a lot of people. Their head, what happens in the head, it just starts ruining the ideas or ruins things that we do well, and they become not so well, and we kind of drop the things because we're not, because of what's going on ahead. We get depressed about it. We feel that it's not happening for us. If you try to learn a language, for instance, so all of a sudden you're picking up words, you're doing something, and then all of a sudden it's not going. You feel like you're talking to somebody in the other language, and you can't remember the words. You can't do anything. However, so it's all in your head, but the head is really actually working for you. You're actually growing as and thinking as you are doing it. As he's learning the language, if you don't, let's say Hebrew, you may not be able to speak it, but as you're doing the things, your mind is starting to put together stuff. This great. Okay. Oh, so here. This is a different. I'll just skip this for a second. We'll come back to this. There's somebody named Tim Galway. Tim Galway, fascinating individual. I'm gonna play this for you. What happened? His story is very good.
Whether you're watching the New England Patriots orchestrate yet another game-winning drive, or the Golden State Warriors drain a barrage of three-pointers, you may not know it, but you are witnessing one of the ultimate connections between mind and body. The dominance of those two teams over the last 3 years is unmatched, with each winning 2 championships respectively. 2 essential people behind all this success are quarterback Tom Brady and head coach Steve Kerr, who, besides winning, share the common philosophy of one man.
Hello, my name is Tim Galway, and I'm the author of The Inner Game of Tennis.
The Inner Game of Tennis was originally published in 1972 as an instructional book, but its novel approach to sports psychology unexpectedly transcended well beyond just tennis.
Recently, Tom Brady had read The Inner Game to sharpen his mental toughness during the Super Bowl, and he quoted The Inner Game in his language. Kept him cool, kept him collected, and he said, when the mind is quiet, the body performs at its best.
A nationally ranked junior, Tim eventually graduated from Harvard after serving as the captain of their men's tennis team. He planned on a long career in higher education, but it was on the tennis court giving a lesson where Tim had an epiphany that would forever change his life and eventually the world's approach to teaching and learning.
The initial insight was the way children learn are better than the way adults learn.
If we'd have been learning how to walk the way we learn how to play sports, our dad would have been there saying, okay, now, Tommy, first you put your left foot out and you put your weight in the heel of your foot, then you sort of shift on over. No, don't shift so early.
They learn to walk and crawl and run, ride a bicycle without very much technical instruction.
This isn't just trial and error. This is trial and correction. But the correction is self-correction.
So instead of telling the tennis student, hit the ball in front of you, I would ask the tennis student, notice where your ball and racket are making connection. And the racket automatically finds the place where it feels best, sounds best, and works best.
The inner game of tennis ushered in a brand new approach to sports, education, and psychology that had never been seen before. When Random House originally published the book, they didn't expect to sell more than 20,000 copies. That was until Tim's story was featured on an ABC News national program hosted by Harry Reasoner.
Let's say you're trying to learn a new skill. There's a tennis pro named Timothy Galway who claims he has a better way. He calls his system the inner game.
Harry Reasoner said, this sounds like a lot of hokum. I'm going to go out and do a expose.
Recently, we invited Galway to demonstrate by showing how quickly he could teach tennis to a class of absolute beginners. Among these was a sedentary, middle-aged lady named Molly Grover.
I said, before we start playing tennis, I want you to learn to see a ball.
So you just be saying bounce, hit. All you need to do is watch the ball.
There was no chance for failure, just for seeing. And literally within 3 shots, she was making contact with the ball.
Bounce, hit.
Hear that one?
Bounce, hit.
And the body and all its coordinating mechanism is what hit the ball. And the little 10-cent computer that was giving it orders wasn't giving it orders because it was too busy saying bounce hit.
All of a sudden, everything became effortless. I said, I'm playing tennis.
She was smiling the whole time. If I had asked her afterward, how did you play? I don't know. Felt okay to me. How did I play? Well,
So what he said in many interviews, what happened really was that he said that he was actually he was teaching tennis lessons, and he was giving all this instruction, and then he got lazy. He was just one day he was tired, and he had this new student, and he was mailing it. He was thinking about something else. It was the end of the day, and he said he threw the ball to her without saying anything, and then she hit the ball. And then he started noticing that he kept throwing it, and she was hitting it very perfectly. Like she was hitting it really well. And he's like, but I didn't give her any instructions. How did that happen exactly? And he said, because what happens is a lot of things we over teach, we over try to teach. We don't try to allow ourselves to just absorb and learn and it become a part of us. So with the body knows how to hit a ball. If it could see the ball and hit it, it's going to try to get in the best position it can to hit that ball. That's what the body, the mind does. When we try to walk, a baby doesn't look at the other babies and say to the other baby, oh, I see the way you're walking, you're making this mistake. They just do it. They just get up and start trying. And when they fall, then they readjust, their body readjusts itself, and then they go to do it. So he says that in everything that we try to learn, so what we do is we just try to see, what do we want to do? How do we want to imagine that it should be done? And then allow ourselves to do it and realize that when you're not doing something or you're doing it wrong, the body is readjusting itself. So if you're learning a new language, for instance, sometimes you're not doing it, you feel like I'm not getting it right, but the body is readjusting. It's thinking about it. It's saying, oh, it didn't work that way. Maybe I have to, readjust my mind, get the pathways in order to get it right. It's a very powerful thing that he's saying. And I think that it really works for a lot of things in our life, especially in learning and growing and in any of these types of things, that the way we learn is that we have to allow our minds to do it, but we have to try to imagine, what do we want to do? How do we want to, what's the vision? What's the vision? What are we trying to accomplish? And then try to back off and not try to kill ourselves to do it. Imagine ourselves being able to do it and then try to allow our bodies to do it, and then correct and learn how to correct and keep studying and keep doing it. You know, people make fun of the kids who you go, yeah, great job, great job. You know, today they give medals for everything. You get medals for, you know, participation medals and so on. But part of what the philosophy behind that, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Yeah, for little kids, yeah, you give participation. For bigger kids, you don't do participation. But the in my school they give participation even up to high school. It's like crazy, that participation stuff. It's ridiculous. But the idea is just to encourage, just keep going with it. Keep going, and you never know. You know, you'll come to like it. Just to go back for a second, maybe not. There's this book. Sorry. Clearer, Closer, and Better: How Successful People See the World. And so what she writes in the book here is that a lot of times people aren't able to see themselves doing something. They're not able to see themselves in it, so they push themselves out because they feel like, oh, you have to be an expert to do something, so therefore I don't see myself as being able to do it. So she wanted to have, she did one interesting thing. She wanted to get kids to start saving for their retirement. You know, young 20 somethings, when they go into their job, so they're not saving for retirement. So when you ask them, how come you're not saving for retirement? Because all the statistics say, if you start saving when you're young, you'll be able to retire when you reach 65, because you'll have all that growth. But because they didn't see themselves, they see retirement so far away, they need the money now, so they just push it off. So what she did is she photoshopped them on pictures like Betty White. They took her face, their face, and put her on Betty, you know, like on Betty White. I snapped a picture of their face, blended that image with an older esteemed person like Maya Angelou or Betty White. I presented their headshots that aged them about 45 years and had them visualize their life at that point in time. The pictures took them all by surprise. But more than that, it changed these 20-somethings' thought about time. Now their future was nearer, their choices were more relevant for their retirement years to come, and interest in saving for retirement was much stronger. She said that actually, when she checked up on them later, almost all of them started to put money away for retirement after they saw that. So they were able, it became real to them. It's not just some like, oh yeah, this expert could do it, I can't do this. You know, they've been studying for 50 years, 30 years. So of course they could do it. You know, they were born with that, they could do it. So I can't do it. But if you could see yourself in it, then you could actually accomplish really, really anything. Just want to end off with one more Dvar Torah. So it says in Parshas Shlach, it says, "Vayishlach osam Moshe lasur es haaretz Canaan," right? That it tells them to go lasur. What's lasur mean? So it's not clear what the word lasur means. What's the word? Lasur is to tour, right?
To seek out, to look for.
To look for, right? To look for. So this is the beginning of the Parsha Shlach. How does Parsha Shlach end? Does anybody remember how Parsha Shlach ends?
Yeah, the messengers come back and they say that we're going to be too small.
Right. So that's the whole story of the spies. What's the very end of the Parsha? What's the last thing?
Tzitzit, the concept of like
right.
Otam.
Reisem osam was right. Vayalachem letzitzis. You have to have tzitzis, right? Uzchartem es kol mitzvos Hashem vazisem osam. And look at the next two words. V'lo sasuru. So it starts off, the parsha starts off with the word tur, lasur, and it ends off with the word lasur, right? Just how it started off, it ended off. So what is the word what does it mean here, lo sasuru? So it says you should not follow your heart, right? Ibn Ezra says the eye sees and the heart desires. The tzitzis are a sign that a person should not chase after his desirous thoughts and anything his eyes seek. So if we take this and then go back to the beginning of the parsha with the word lasur, so what could it take on another meaning here? What did Moshe ask them to do when he asked them to go check out the land?
Be like a tourist, just take a look and not, but not evaluate and not make.
Don't follow your eyes, use your head.
Follow your
Look
desire.
for the good things. Look for the good things.
Yeah,
As a
but
tourist, looks for
imagine-
everything that's good.
It could be like, I mean, this is nothing, but it could be like Moshe is saying, imagine the land of Canaan, right? Don't follow off your eyes or your thing, because what happens is you start imagining, oh, that cake tastes so good. I gotta have that cake. It tastes so good. You start seeing yourself eating the cake. You taste it, your mouth starts watering because you're imagining how great that cake is. And so what the Torah Tzitzis is saying is don't follow your imagination to evil. But Moshe is maybe, it's an idea, is that Moshe is saying he sent them Lasuras Haaretz Canaan. He didn't tell them, give a report that, where we should attack. There was none of that thing. He's like, I want you to go in and look at like when you go, this is what makes like a great real estate agent and a regular real estate. A great real estate agent, you go in with the house, a great real estate agent, and they say, imagine here is, this kitchen, forget about what you see. Don't forget about what you see. Imagine we take down this wall and then you could have like this big playroom for your kids. Imagine we could, move this wall a little bit, move it, the bathroom, we take down this bathroom. Imagine you have a shower that does this and that and so on. They give you the imagination. So this way you could see the house for much more than it was. And so that's maybe what Moshe is telling the spies to do. Lasur es Eretz Canaan, go imagine the land, see what the possibility, see how great the land could be, and then come back and give that vision to the people. That's the vision you should give to the people so they know what they're fighting for when they go and take over the land. And so maybe that's the idea that Moshe is doing. And that's really what we should be doing in our lives, is we should see the vision. What's the vision? What can we be, right? Picture that vision and then try to allow our bodies to do it. Allow our bodies to go and start doing it without beating ourselves up, without quitting, but keep going and try to get ourselves to the point where we could actually fulfill our dreams. So on that, I'd like to thank you all very much for coming to this year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.